Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and today we're on the last color. We're on green of our Magic Origins set review. Tomorrow will be a video of the remaining cards, multicolored artifacts, lands, and just sort of my basic ideas about the format as a whole, so stay tuned for that as well. We're going to jump right on in though. Just a quick reminder, this is a limited set review. This is about draft and sealed only. Not talking about constructed. If I trash your favorite constructed card, that's because I don't think it's good in limited only. Other disclaimers, other ideas about my set reviews as a whole, make sure you watch the earlier set reviews if you haven't already. But the first card we're going to jump right on into is Ariel Volley. Ariel Volley is it's just a single green instant at common that says Ariel Volley deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 creatures with flying. So it's a flyer removal, which is generally sideboard only. In draft, in sealed, some formats call for main decking it. So Dragons of Tarkir, for example, at the Grand Prix last weekend, I main decked Pinion Feast, just because there are so many flyers in sealed in that format. In draft, main decking Pinion Feast is a little bit more questionable. And in this format, I'm not sure how it's going to shape out. It's something I'm going to have to really experience to find out, of course. But I don't think flyers are going to be that dominant that you're ever going to main deck this. I think it's a sideboard card only, which means it's a solid D right up front. Now, it is kind of cool removal in that you could take out 2 or maybe even 3 flyers, and of course it is awesome against Thopters. And I've seen this comment frequently in the previous videos so far this week about such and such a card being super awesome against the Thopter deck. Be very careful with that, because yes, it'll be awesome, but my prediction is one person at the table can draft Thopters. The chances are completely against you ever facing that person. So don't overvalue a card just because it's good against one single deck. It's the exact same reasoning for not hate drafting cards. If you see a bomb that's totally unbeatable, you shouldn't take it if there's a card for your deck, because the odds are you're not going to play against that card. Somebody else has to draft it, they have to play it, they have to draw it, they have to successfully get it on the board, plus you have to be paired up with them in the first place. Odds are against you playing it. Yes, this is awesome against the dedicated Thopter deck. Will you play against the dedicated Thopter deck? Not more often, you won't play against this more often than you will play against it. So be very careful with that. Solid D for me, sideboard only. I don't think you're going to main deck these. Maybe in sealed, maybe. We'll have to see. Next up, we have Animists Awakening. This is an X and a green sorcery at rare. It says reveal the top X cards of your library. Put all land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, which is kind of interesting. Normally cards would say on the bottom of your library. I don't know if it's ever really said in a random order anymore, but that appears to be the way this effect or this mechanic is going now. It also has Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant hit or sorcery cards in your graveyard, untap those lands. So they don't come into play untapped, but they do then untap. Basically the same thing. So this is ramp, albeit incredibly variable ramp. You could throw 6 mana into this and not hit any lands. That's against the odds. You're probably going to hit at least 1 or 2. If you do this for 6. But I can think of a lot better things I'd want to do for 6. You don't really need ramp when you're that high or that late into the game. And that's where I think Animists Awakening really just sort of falls apart. The cost that you need to spend to ensure that you're going to get a good amount of ramp means that you already have a high number of lands, and getting more is going to be very diminishing returns. Ultimately, this just feels like too much of a gamble for me. I think on average, if you cast this for 5, you might get 2 lands on average, and that doesn't seem good to me. That's not what I want to do on turn 5. I don't want to get to 7 lands on turn 5. I want to be, I want to get to 4 lands on turn 3. And that's not regularly going to happen with Animists Awakening. Yeah, I feel like the odds of you time walking yourself are just too good until a point in the game where this spell just becomes irrelevant. So I gotta go with an F on it. I gotta go with an F. I don't think you want to play this card. Next up, we have Caustic Caterpillar. This is a single green creature insect at common for a 1/1. And it says 1 and a green, sacrifice Caustic Caterpillar, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Yeah, again, I think it's sideboard only. It's a 1/1 for 1, which is garbage. You don't play those ever. And it has a mild upside if your opponent happens to have an artifact or enchantment that you really want to get rid of. Don't play this just in case. I do not think it will ever be correct to play this just in case they have an enchantment that's really awesome. Because the enchantments that are really awesome are at rare. And the artifacts that are really awesome are at rare. So playing this main deck just seems bad to me. I think it's sideboard only, and so it's just a flat-out solid D for me. Next up, we have Conclave Naturalists. This is a 4 and a green creature dryad at uncommon for a 4/4. And it says, when Conclave Naturalists enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. So we have artifact and enchantment removal again, 2 in a row. But this one's on a much bigger body. It's on a 4/4 as opposed to a 1/1. It does cost you 5 mana to get it, but it is a 4/4. This is more playable since it is just a legitimate threat. Although it is a little bit expensive. Generally, you want your 5-drops to do something when they come down, and this one will only very rarely do something relevant. So I'd probably still prefer not to play this unless I needed to remove artifacts or enchantments. I'm not going to put it into sideboard range because it is a 4/4 for 5, which if you need it, you need it. And if you don't, you don't. I'm going to give it a C-. I think it is ultimately more cuttable than keepable, but that goes up a little bit if in game 1 you saw some sort of back-breaking artifact or enchantment. Next up, we have Dwynen, not sure on the correct pronunciation of that, Guiltleaf Dane. This is a 2 green legendary creature elf warrior at rare, and she's a 3/4. She has reach. She also has other elf creatures you control get +1/+1. And whenever Dwynen, I forgot how I said I was going to pronounce that, Guiltleaf Dane attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking elf you control. So she's pretty solid just because she's a 3/4 reach for 4. Right there, that's awesome. Elf Lord is pretty cool, but I'm really curious how viable Elf Tribal is going to be, which is the exact same statement for her next effect of getting a life for each attacking elf. I think you take this and you force Elf Tribal. I don't think Elf Tribal is going to be a legitimate, powerful archetype in this format. I just feel like most of the common elves aren't super playable. The really good ones are at rare. The okay ones are at uncommon, and the common ones are pretty middling to just straight up bad. So I'm really curious about this. I feel like a lot of people are going to try to go into it, and they're really going to get run over by somebody who just has a good deck. Doesn't follow any specific archetype, they just have a good deck. And I think the mediocre forced elf tribal deck will get run over. That being said, I think if you can first pick Guiltleaf Dane here, Dwynen, then you can give it a go, because giving all of those middling elves +1/+1 makes them significantly better. So take this pack 1, pick 1, and draft elves. Don't draft elves and hope to get this or something similar later on. But as I said, she's a great creature. 3/4 reach for 4, totally fine. A- for me. I like it. I'll give it a try sometime just to test out Elf Tribal, but be careful on Elf Tribal in the end. But Dwynen, A-. Next up, we have Dwynen's Elite. This is a 1 and a green creature elf warrior at uncommon, and it's a 2/2, so it's 2/2 for 2. Totally fine. When Dwynen's Elite enters the battlefield, if you control another elf, put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token onto the battlefield. So definitely an elf tribal enabler, though it's not that impressive. It sounds impressive, but it is just a 1/1 once. And you're not going to have multiples of these probably. and it doesn't stack in any other way, so you're just getting a 1/1. So basically it's a 3/3 for 2, which is super efficient if you have another elf on the battlefield. Yeah, I'm not sold on Elf Tribal, as I just talked about at length, so I'm not sold on this just totally always being a 3/3 for 2. I don't think that's the case. You can try to build around it, but this is not a reason to go Elf Tribal. This is just something to include in Elf Tribal. In comparison to Dwynnin herself, that totally is a reason to try out Elf Tribal. I think it's totally fine. You know, it's a C right away for being a 2/2 for 2. It's got a mild upside, so I'll upgrade it to C+. I think you can play it if you want to, but don't get sucked into Elf Tribal because of this card. Next up, we have Elemental Bond. Elemental Bond is a 2 and a green enchantment at uncommon that says whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This effect is cool and all, but I don't necessarily want to waste an entire card slot on this, plus having to play it just to set up maybe some extra card draw. It doesn't seem worth the include to me. I get that it's a decently powerful effect, but I would so much more strongly prefer this to be on a creature, on a body, on something that impacts the battlefield, rather than this enchantment that does nothing on probably a large number of turns. Now I just don't see the power behind this. In a game, I see the power on the words on the card, but in context of this being played in a game, I just feel like it's going to end up being more underpowered than overpowered, and I'm going to be pretty happy to see it on the other side of the battlefield. So I'm going to go with a D+ on it, because I do see the power, but I just think it's going to be a little bit too clunky for me. Next up, we have Elvish Visionary. Elvish Visionary is a 1 and a green creature elf shaman at common, and it's a 1/1. So it's a 1/1 for 2. We don't play 1/1s for 1. Why would we ever play a 1/1 for 2? Well, this one says when Elvish Visionary enters the battlefield, draw a card. Now that's pretty solid. That's totally fine. The body is trash. You're not playing this to get a 1/1. Maybe you're playing it to help Elf Tribal, but even then, I don't know. I mean, it's cool if it becomes a 2/2 because you have Dwynnin. It's cool if it gets you another 1/1 because you have Dwynnin's Elite. But it's really mediocre by itself. But that card draw is just something that green doesn't really get. Green usually gets very conditional card draw. This is totally unconditional. You get yourself a card for 2 mana, plus what will probably be a chump blocker, and that's fine. You don't want to run too many of these. You know, you don't first pick these. You don't take, 5 of them. But 1, totally fine. 2, maybe okay. Straight up C for me, just middle of the road. Playable if you need to, and I would generally lean towards more playable, but really falls off in power. So just a C for me. Next up, we have Evolutionary Leap. Evolutionary Leap is a 1 and a green enchantment at rare, and it says, pay a green, sack a creature. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is interesting. This sort of helps you get some value out of your creatures that are going to be removed or going to be killed in combat. So your opponent casts a removal spell, you pay a green and sack it. And they get to remove your creature, basically, but you get a creature into your hand. If a creature is going to die in combat, you could do a chump block and then sack them. The creature is still blocked, and then get a creature out of your library. It's high variance. You never know what you're going to get, of course. But if the creature's going to die anyway, then it's, it's decent. It's creature insurance, basically. You're going to get something else. You have no idea what, but you're going to get something. Is that worth a card slot and spending a turn in the early game to play this? I'm not sure. I'm going to need to play with this. I'm going to start with an optimistic C+ on it. But it's a card that I definitely want to give a shot, because I feel like a lot of people may look at it and say, oh, it's too cute. It's too clunky. But I see a lot of value coming out of this. It's a single green, and I sack a creature that's going to die anyway. I don't just sack random creatures to roll the dice and see if I get a better one. I sack the creatures that are going to die anyway. So I'm really interested in trying this card. I'm going to go with a C+, potentially higher, potentially garbage. We'll have to see. Next up, we have Gaia's Revenge. This is a 5 green creature elemental at rare for an 8/5. My 7 drops need to be high impact, and this one's got some high impact stuff going on. Gaia's Revenge can't be countered. Haste. Gaia's Revenge can't be the target of non-green spells or abilities from non-green sources. That's super high impact. It's an 8/5. That's huge. For 6 mana, that's pretty huge. The 5's a little bit weak, but still is awesome. You know, there's not that many 5-power creatures. This is going to command a double block or a triple block to kill. Can't be countered, doesn't matter. You know, that's going to come up so rarely and limited that it doesn't matter. The haste is awesome. Opportunistic attacks with haste creatures are cool, but you usually get in for like 2 damage, 3 damage. Opportunistically getting in for 8 damage is going to be just incredible. Just incredible. Even an opportunistic attack into chump blockers, you know, into, you know, anything that's not going to kill this will be awesome. The non-green shroud effect is pretty cool as well. You know, there's very little green removal in this set. So any removal that you'd be concerned about killing this guy is going to be non-green. And it can't be targeted by that. So that's pretty darn solid as well. I'm very happy with that. Keep in mind, this is a shroud effect. You cannot target this with non-green spells or abilities from non-green sources as well. So keep that in mind before you try, you know, pumping this up with a black enchantment or something. But yeah, it looks like just an amazingly solid creature to me. It's a 6-drop, but boy, is it a 6-drop. So B+ for me. Arguably even bomb range. I could be pushed up to A-. Next up, we have Gather the Pack. This is a 1 and a green sorcery at uncommon, and it says reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant and or sorcery cards in your graveyard, put up to 2 creature cards from among the revealed cards into your hand instead of 1. So for 2 mana, you get to dig through the top 5 cards of your library for 1 creature, or if you have Spell Mastery, 2 creatures. I'm not usually a huge fan of these effects. I like them a little bit more when they provide a choice. So creature or enchantment, like Commune with the Gods. Or creature or land, like the card I can't think of the name of from whichever set had Golgari in it. Return to Ravnica, I think, maybe Gatecrash. I think RTR. I like that because you're almost always going to hit something. You know, in Theros, you were almost always going to hit a creature or enchantment. In any format, you're always going to hit a creature or land. It would be so hard to not hit a creature or land. Here, it's a little bit more reasonable that you could just completely whiff and hit no creatures. Still a little bit unlikely. A little bit unlikely. I don't know about hitting 2 creatures super duper often. You're going to get a lot of lands typically when you do this. At least 2, I would say, on average. I don't know the actual stats. I'm making that up, but that's my feel of it. Potentially getting 2 creatures makes this better. But again, Spell Mastery, how often is it going to be on? I'm not sure. And I think that's my big question with every Spell Mastery card right now is, would I play this card if the Spell Mastery stuff was flavor text? Because that's what the Spell Mastery cards are going to be. A definite non-zero amount of the time. So would I play this card if it had no Spell Mastery ever? Probably not. I just don't like these effects. I know some people value them a little bit more highly. I definitely have valued them a little bit more lowly. So I don't know. I think ultimately this is pretty cuttable, and I'm going to go with C-. You can play it if you want to. I just don't think it's terribly great. Next up, we have the Great Aurora. This is a 6 green mythic sorcery. It says each player shuffles all cards from his or her hand and all permanents he or she owns into his or her library, then draws that many cards. Each player may put any number of land cards from his or her hand onto the battlefield, exile the Great Aurora. So let's say we play this on turn 9. We just hit our 9th land drop. We play the Great Aurora. We're shuffling all of our lands, all of our creatures, all of our enchantments, all of our artifacts into our library, along with our hand, and we're drawing a minimum of 9 cards because we had 9 lands, plus whatever number of creatures, artifacts, enchantments, and cards in our hand. So we're drawing several cards, and then laying down every land that we drew in that basically starting hand of this new game. And our opponent gets to do the same thing. We're basically resetting the game for 9 mana and gambling on who gets more lands, me or my opponent. This card's hilarious. This card is awesomely fun, and super awful. Never touch this card. Whether or not this format's going to be fast or slow, I don't know yet, but it's not going to be a 9 mana format. No format is a 9 mana format, ever. This one certainly is not going to be a 9 mana format. You're not going to play this, and you're not going to play this just for the sake of maybe getting lucky on the land drops and the other draws in your hand. Save this for Commander, not even competitive Commander, just for casual Commander at that. Straight up F. I mean, there's no other grade this card can get. Next up, we have Herald of the Pantheon. This is a 1 and a green creature centaur shaman at rare. Gold is rare. For a 2/2. So it's a 2/2 for 2. Awesome. C right there. But it has text. It says enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life. It's a 2/2 for 2 with an upside, so it's totally playable, and it's going to be a C+ right there, unless the upside is awesome. The upside, however, is not really exciting at all. I don't think the Enchantments Matter deck is going to be that much of a thing. And I don't think it's going to include green. I think the black-white Enchantments Matter deck is the only place that the Enchantments Matter theme can really happen. I don't think green's a part of it. And so this creature just doesn't really do anything for me, for limited anyways. I obviously see the benefit of it in constructed. This with Eidolon of the Blossoms and everything else from Theros will be totally awesome. But this in this limited format just seems bad to me. I'll give it a C+ because it's a 2/2 for 2 with what may be some potential upside. Maybe the 1 or 2 enchantments you're playing will be helped out a little bit. But that's about all this gets for limited, unfortunately. I think this is a clear-cut constructed card. Next up, we have Hitchclaw Recluse. This is a 2 and a green creature spider at common. It's a 1/4 with reach. Of course, all spiders have reach, generally. It's a total middle-of-the-road card. It's not Giant Spider. Giant Spider's a 2/4, which is awesome. That generally kills a lot of the stuff in the air that it can block. This is a 1/4, meaning that it's probably not going to kill much of anything beyond Thopters. But I mean, it is a 1/4. It's going to block a ton of stuff on the ground as well. Total sideboard call, of course, if you do see flyers on the other side of the board, if you didn't main deck it. But I think it is main deckable if you need it. I don't think you're going to go out of your way to do that, but it's there if you need it, so it's a stereotypical C for me. Next up, we have Honored Hierarch, which is a bit of a tongue twister. I've had to re-record that name several times. It's a single green creature human druid at rare, and it's a 1/1. So it's a 1/1 for 1. Bad already. But what's it do? Maybe it's awesome. Renown 1. So maybe someday it's a 2/2. As long as Honored Hierarch is renowned, it has vigilance and tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So it becomes a Birds of Paradise that can actually attack much more decently than an 0/1 ever could. However, I'm not in favor of this guy at all. You have to play him on turn 1. You must attack on turn 2 into an empty board. And then on turn 3, you start to get your ramp and your mana fixing. And a 2/2 that maybe can attack, but on turn 3 and later, probably not terribly well. If any of those steps get screwed up, this thing is generally worthless. Drawing this on turn 4, turn 5, garbage. This thing's just going to die every single time. Drawing a Birds of Paradise on turn 4 or turn 5, Awesome. That's fine. I don't have to attack with the birds just to turn it on the first time. I think this guy's bad. Just really, really, really bad. And I think people are going to draft it very heavily. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge, huge mistake. I'll give it a C-. I see its power if everything goes right, but I don't know how often things are going to go right with this card. So C- from me. Next up, we have Jiraga Invocation. This is a 4 green sorcery at uncommon that says each creature you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn and must be blocked this turn if able. I find players really undervalue lure effects, the must be blocked effect. Roar of the Challenge was an awesome card in Fate, was that in? I think that was in Fate Reforged. Maybe it was Cons, actually. Just a really good card. Because what happens is you get into a board stall, or you even slightly have a number of creatures on your board. You force your opponent to block your 1/1 or your 2/2, and all your bigger guys get through for a ton of damage. Now, this isn't quite there because it gives everything lure, which means your opponent can still just chump block your big stuff and let your little stuff get through. However, even your little stuff is a threat because it's all +3/+3. Ultimately, I think this is worse than something like Roar of the Challenge, namely because Roar of the Challenge was cheaper, had the ability to be on a single creature and, let the rest of your team get through. But I think it's still decent because it does give your entire team +3/+3. It tries to kind of emulate Overrun almost. I really want to try this card. I want to see how it goes. It is 6 mana. That hurts it a little bit. But I do want to give it a try. I think you'll still likely wipe their board, potentially, which is pretty darn solid, especially in green. So I'm going to go with C+ on this. It could even get a B-, but it's the casting cost that's making me a little bit hesitant. So C+ for now. Next up, we have Leaf Gilder. Leaf Gilder is a 1 and a green common creature elf druid and is a 2/1. And it says tap, add green to your mana pool. It's not Lanois Elf, but it is Golden Hind. Golden Hind was in Journey into Nyx, I believe. Yeah, Journey into Nyx. And it was a 2/1 for 2 that tapped to give you a green mana. And this is identical. It's just not Golden Hind because it's Leaf Gilder. I'm a big fan. Golden Hind was first pickable in weak packs, and I think Leaf Gilder will be first pickable as well in weak packs where your uncommons and your rares are pretty unexciting. It's not exciting, it's not a bomb or anything. I'm not going to go higher than a B- on it, but it is a solid card. It's, ever so slightly less rampy than Lanois Elf is because it's not on turn 1, but on turn 2 is still totally fine for ramp. So I'm pretty high on this guy, B-. Next up, we do have Lanois something. We have Lanois Empath. This is a 3 and a green creature elf shaman at common for a 2/2. And it says, when Lanois Empath enters the battlefield, scry 2. Then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. It's a really interesting design, and I think I like it. The body is a little bit weak for 4 mana, of course. 2/2 for 4 is a little bit iffy. But at the worst, you get to shift 2 useless cards to the bottom of your library and then reveal the top card. And if it's a creature, hey, it goes in your hand. And if it's not, cool, you know what you're getting. Your opponent knows what you're getting. You get to set up an important spell or land draw your next turn, if that's the case. If you kind of, see something you really want on your top of your library, like a removal spell or that land you really need. And of course, in the best case scenario, you get to draw a card. You get to draw a creature card off of it. Ultimately, I think this card's totally fine and much more includable than it is cuttable. I don't think it's awesome by any stretch of the imagination. The body that's left behind on turn 4 or later is kind of middling, but the card advantage or the potential card advantage is decent enough that I'll give it a C+. I think it's keepable more than not. Next up, we have Mana Gorger Hydra. This is a 2 and a green creature Hydra at rare for a 1/1. 1/1 for 3. What's it do? It gets trample, or it just has trample rather. And whenever a player casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Mana Gorger Hydra. I think this Hydra is totally fine and probably a first pick. I think it's really cool. So a 1/1 on turn 3, that's a little bit weak. But ideally, what's going to happen is you're going to cast that, pass the turn, and your opponent is either going to not do anything and keep you at a 1/1, or they're going to cast a spell because you kind of need to on turn 3, and suddenly you have a 2/2. Next turn, you cast a spell, it's a 3/3. Maybe you cast 2 2-drops, and it's a 4/4. And this thing just gets out of control. Gets out of control like crazy really quickly. It's also resilient to burn. When you cast this, it's a 1/1. Your opponent cannot kill this with a 1 damage effect, because as soon as they cast that 1 damage effect, it's going to get a counter right away. And as soon as this is a 2/2, it's resilient to a lot of the burn in the format, because it's going to be a 3/3 if a player casts a spell. And after that, things just get crazy. It's going to be a very tense few minutes when you first cast this as a 1/1, wondering if it's going to die right away to some sort of cheap burn spell. But once it gets past that, they're going to have some sort of really good removal in hand to get rid of this. I'd be very happy to first pick this. I don't think it's a bomb because it does, it's a bomb, but I don't think it's an A or an A+ bomb, just because it is going to be a little bit vulnerable for a little short bit. Plus, there's no other, way of affecting the board beyond being a big creature. So B+ though, total first pick still, I think, and very happy to play this card. Next up, we have Mantle of Webs. This is a 1 and a green enchantment aura at common. It says enchanted creature gets +1/+3 and has reach. I'm not a big fan of this one. Generally, I don't like auras. They need to be really high impact for me to play them because of the potential for getting 2-for-1. This one's really low impact and really meant for defense. Reach is not an aggressive or offensive effect at all. It's purely a defensive effect. +1/+3 is not an offensive effect. It's a defensive effect. And that's not what I want to be spending, the rare aura slot that I would give to a deck on. I want to be using that, 1 aura that I play or 2 auras that I play to be really big impact ones. And this just isn't it. I'll give it a C-. I think realistically I'm going to be more in the D range. This is probably sideboard when you see that you're up against flyers. Very, very, very cuttable, I think. Next up, we have Might of the Masses. Might of the Masses is a single green instant at common that says target creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. This is an interesting combat trick. It mildly reminds me of Aspect of the Hydra. Aspect of the Hydra was +X/+X, where X is your devotion to green. And, assuming your creatures were all single green, as opposed to double green creatures, this is the same card. Now, of course, it doesn't count enchantments or auras or things like that, but it's similar to Aspect of the Hydra. But I do think it's a little bit worse than Aspect of the Hydra because it does require you to have just a decent number of creatures. It will be +1/+1 or +0/+0, which, combat tricks, if you have no creatures on the board, are just bad anyways. But it will be +1/+1 a non-zero amount of the time, and even +2/+2 is overcosted compared to Giant Growth, which is +3/+3 for 1. I feel like this requires you to already be ahead, decently ahead, in order to get a good combat trick out of this. And if I'm already decently ahead, I'd rather just continue getting ahead with threats than getting in a little bit of extra damage one time. So ultimately, I'm out on this card. Includable if you're desperate for a combat trick or something. So C-. I think it's playable, but cuttable more often than not. All right, Planeswalker time. Let's move on to Nissa, Vastwood Seer. She is a 2 and a green legendary creature elf scout at Mythic for a 2/2 on her non-flip side. And she says, when Nissa, Vastwood Seer enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic forest card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, exile Nissa, then return her to the battlefield transformed under her owner's control. So she's a 2/2 for 3 that finds a forest explicitly, not any land. She doesn't fix your mana. She just gets you a forest. Still relatively playable. I would much prefer that it went onto the battlefield, but that's not the case. It goes into your hand, so little bit out on that. And that's all she does until she flips. And she flips a significant time later than when you play her if you play her on curve. So you play her on turn 3. You get a land into your hand, but if you played her on turn 3, you've already played a land, so you're not ramping or anything. She has to live through turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, and then turn 7 you need to play a land, and that'll flip her. That's a long, long time. A long, long, long time, barring any ramp that you happen to get. That makes me slightly worried about Nyssa on her original side. I'm not certain how frequently it is that she is going to flip. I think she's going to have a huge target on her back, and I think there's just a million ways for her to die, or you to just die, before you get to turn 7 when she can flip. Now let's put away the doomsday talk for a second and let's take a look at her transform side, Nyssa Sage Animist. She's a Planeswalker Nyssa at Mythic, starting with 3 loyalty. Her +1 is reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. That's awesome. Green just does not get straight up card advantage. They don't get to just draw cards for the sake of drawing cards all willy-nilly like, but it does with Nyssa. This is one of the best +1s of all the Planeswalkers, I think. Just super powerful. It's either ramp plus getting a land off the top of your deck, which is also great, or it's just straight up card advantage. You just straight up get to draw a creature or spell. That's awesome. I really like her +1. -2, put a legendary 4/4 green elemental creature token named Ashaya the Awoken World onto the battlefield. Getting a 4/4 is pretty cool. If you just flipped Nyssa and you have no support to back her up, -2, make a 4/4. A 4/4 is going to pretty handily back her up. If you power her up a little bit, get her to 4, 5, 6, you can make multiple 4/4s over a few turns. And getting multiple 4/4s is just going to take the game over pretty quickly, I would say. Finally, if you do get her up to 7 or higher, you can -7 her, on tap up to 6 target lands. They become 6/6 elemental creatures. They're still lands. That's a totally fine ultimate, and it should win you the game right then and there. 6 6/6s? Sounds pretty good to me. I'm almost too distracted, though, by the high-quality +1 and -2. I don't know if I'm ever going to really try to get to the -7, just because I'm going to be +1ing her and -2ing her all the time. I think those are awesome abilities. If the game happens to go in such a way that I can get to 7, yeah, I'll do this for sure. But I don't have to in order for her to be just a super awesome, effective Planeswalker. So yeah, I love Nyssa's flip side. I think Nyssa's flip side is awesome. Super awesome. It's her original side that I'm concerned about because she's really weak and she's not going to flip for a long, long time. So I don't think of Nyssa as a turn 3 play. I would so much prefer playing her as a 5-drop or a 6-drop where she's going to flip in a turn or two. That's where I'm going to play Nyssa. I'm going to sandbag her for a while. I'm going to keep her in my hand. I think playing her on turn 3 is a massive risk and probably a mistake. So just be careful with that. But if you flip her, I think you are in incredibly good shape. I'm going to give her a straight up solid A. Arguably even A+. It's just the flip that I think I don't like. But as I said, you can just negate that by holding her back until she's going to flip, until she's pretty close to flipping. So keep that in mind. I think that's going to be the best way to use her effectively. Don't play her on turn 3. I think that's going to be a mistake most of the time. Next up, we have Nissa's Pilgrimage. This is a 2 and a green sorcery at common. And it says, search your library for up to 2 basic forest cards, reveal those cards, and put the rest onto the put 1 onto the battlefield, tapped, and the rest into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant and/or sorcery cards in your graveyard, search your library for up to 3 basic forest cards instead of 2. So, make a very important note. This does say forest cards, not land cards. You can't fix your mana with this. You can't go and get that plain, swamp, island, or mountain that you really need. Historically, these sort of effects, these land fetching effects that only allow you to get one specific land, have been pretty weak. So you do get to put one of those forests on the battlefield, so it is ramp, but it doesn't fix your mana, and that makes this so much weaker. I just don't think I want to play this very often, outside of a heavy, heavy, heavy green deck with a serious ramp focus. You know, the spell mastery effect, okay, I get 3 forests instead of 2. Cool. You know, I don't have to draw those forests, but getting 2 forests into my hand isn't going to do much other than make sure I have a land play next turn and the turn after. It's just not that exciting. I don't think it does enough for me. I'm going to cut this far more often than I'm going to play it, so C- for me. Next up, we have Nissa's Revelation. This is a 5 green sorcery at rare, and it says scry 5, which is a lot. Then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you draw cards equal to its power, and you gain life equal to its toughness. So you scry 5. You take a look at the top 5 cards of your library. You put all the ones that you want on the bottom, and you put all the ones that you want on the top. Then you flip over the top card, and presumably you put a creature on top. You then get to draw cards equal to its power, so at a minimum, assuming it's a 1/1 and not a 0-something, you get to draw it. And if it's more than a 1 power creature, you get to draw the cards underneath it as well, which maybe you already know if you put extra cards on top. And you gain life equal to its toughness. Cool. A little bit of instant life gain, never hurt anybody. The effect is super awesome, but boy is it heavily costed. 7 mana, 5 green. There's going to be games where you just don't get to 7 mana. There's frequently games where you don't get to 7 mana. That happens a lot. Unless this format's slow, I don't know if you're going to get to cast this very regularly. 7 drops really need to be game-changing for me. You know, they need to put the game away. Gaias Revenge, 7-drop, huge impact on the game. This is a 7-drop that doesn't have a huge impact on the game right away. Sure, maybe you'll go from top deck mode to having a hand more or less full of awesome stuff, but it's not a guarantee at all. You know, you could very well be in a situation where you're blind flipping the top card, hoping it's a creature. And that's risky for me on a 7-drop. Maybe this is a bit more playable in sealed where games will go significantly longer, but I don't think it's super duper awesome in draft. I see the power. I totally see the power. I'm just hesitant because of the cost. I'll go with a C, and that really has no bearing on the power of the card. The card's powerful for sure. I just don't think it's going to be super playable because of how costed it is, or how heavily costed it is. So be careful with it. Give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. I might give it a shot, maybe, and see how it goes, but I'll probably actually just wait for other people to give it a try first. Next up, we have Orchard Spirit. This is a 2 and a green creature spirit at common for a 2/2 that says Orchard Spirit can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. So Orchard Spirit has flying, but doesn't have flying. For all intents and purposes on offense, it's a flyer, except for if flyer removal is a thing. On defense, it's not a flyer because it does not have flying. It doesn't have reach. It can't block flyers. I liked Orchard Spirit back in Innistrad where it was first printed, and I think I like it here as well. You know, it's a 2/2 basically flyer for 3. You're going to want this to be a little bit more in an aggressive deck than in a defensive deck, but it's going to serve you pretty well. 2/2 flyers for 3 are just, you know, solid beaters most of the time. So I go with C+. I think it's much more keepable than it is cuttable, and I'll be happy to play one. Probably not 2, maybe 2. We'll have to see, but I'll go with a C+. Next up, we have Outland Colossus. This is a 3 green creature giant at rare for a 6/6. It's a 6/6 for 6. It's on the vanilla test. It passes the vanilla test. However, a 6/6 for 6 vanilla, while technically passing the vanilla test, isn't terribly awesome. Sorry, I'm saying 6/6 for 6. This is 6/6 for 5. That definitely beats the vanilla test. But big dumb bodies still need to do something. You know, a big dumb body can be chump blocked for forever. needs to do something. What does Outland Colossus do? Well, it's got Renown 6 on it, which is huge. And it also says Outland Colossus can't be blocked by more than one creature. So Outland Colossus must be chump blocked. There's not many 6-powered creatures kicking around. There's Volcanic Rambler, there's Kothoped, Soul of whatchamacallit, Scab Goliath, Deep Sea Terror, and I think that's it. There is a minimal number of creatures that can block and kill this, barring Death Touch, an enchantment aura on it, or some sort of combat trick. And only one creature can block this, which means that this guy is just going to be stomping through your opponent's team, almost with impunity. And if it ever gets through, it becomes a 12/12. So this is a 6/6 for 5, which is already pretty cool. And it's got super relevant abilities on it. Super relevant, impactful effects. This card just seems incredibly good and incredibly undercosted. First pick every time, auto include, take this, force green. Boy, I love this card. A+ for me. A+ by far. Super awesome card. Next up, we have Pharika's Disciple. Pharika's Disciple is a 3 and a green creature centaur warrior at common, and she's a 2/3. She has Death Touch, so she can block and kill Outland Colossus easily. She also has Renown 1, so maybe someday she's a 3/4. Another totally fine creature. She's a 2/3 Death Touch for 4, which is fairly okay stats. A little bit overcosted for a 2/3, but she can block and kill anything in the format that doesn't have first strike. Decent. Potentially coming a 3/4 is nice, but I don't know if I'm going to be attacking with her too much. I'd prefer to keep her back and kill things, present a really dangerous blocker. I think it's just a fine include. I don't think it's going to win you the games, but I think it's going to just be a totally fine playable card and probably more keepable than cuttable, so C+. Next up, we have Reclaim. Reclaim is a single green instant at common that says put target card from your graveyard on top of your library. This just doesn't seem that good to me. Putting a card from my graveyard to my hand is kind of cool. And even those effects I'm not generally super excited about if that's all it is. If it's on a body like Den Protector, sure. But if it's just a card doing it, I'm not a huge fan. Putting that card on top of my library, meaning that I turn off my draw step, that I'm really not happy about at all. Really, really, really not happy about that. This just seems way too slow and kind of tempoing myself a little bit. I don't really want to devote a card slot to this. I'm going to go with D-. I see how it could be useful here or there, but I would generally so much prefer this to be almost anything else, so I'm going to go with D-. Next up, we have Rock's Maulers. Rock's Maulers are a 4 and a green creature rhino soldier at common for a 4/4. They have Trample, and they also have Renown 2. So as I've talked about with Renown, I want some sort of pseudo-guarantee that I'm going to get Renown. Trample is a decent pseudo-guarantee. They're a 4/4. They can be blocked by things, but unless your opponent is blocking with an X4, there's still going to be that 1 damage, 2 damage going through that's going to make these guys into a 6/6 Trample for 5, which seems super solid to me. Super, super solid. A 5 mana 4/4 Trample is already decent enough, but a 5 mana potentially 6/6 Trample just seems really good. I really like this card. Should be a decently high pick, and I think an auto include. 1 of for sure. 2 of seems a little bit risky just because it is a 5-drop, but the first one I think is just always going in my deck. So B- from me. Next up, we have Sky Snare Spider. This is a 4 green creature spider at uncommon. It has Vigilance, it has Reach, and it's a 6/6. So it's a 6/6 for 6 with Vigilance and Reach. 6/6 for 6 is decent enough, but again, as I talked about with Outland Colossus when I briefly pretended I didn't necessarily like it, I need my 6/6s for 6 to do something. beyond just being a creature that my opponent is just going to chump block for 4 turns, 5 turns, and then finally find their kill spell. This having Vigilance and Reach is probably the least exciting things it could have, but it's still enough to make it a decently solid card. It can attack in, probably with impunity. You know, your opponent's going to have to double block, maybe triple block to kill this thing, or block with Death Touch or something like that, or a combat trick. But otherwise, they're going to need to take 6 or chump block. And the fact that it has Vigilance with Reach means that it's going to be available to block any flyers next turn. Not that I think your opponent's going to be just attacking you all willy-nilly when you have a 6/6 on the board, but it's there if you need it. Seems solid, a little bit below bomb territory because it is a 6/6, or sorry, it is 6/6 is fine because it is a 6 drop for a card that's not going to just dominate your opponent right away, but will take over given time. So I'll go with a B- on it. Next up, we have Somber Walled Alpha. This is a 3 and a green creature wolf on common, 3/2. It says whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And for 1 and a green, target creature you control gains trample until end of turn. This seems really decent to me. It's a 3/2 for 4, which is okay. It sort of gives your attackers an anthem, at least if they become blocked, which is kind of cool. Your opponent either has to decide to not block or block, but have to block with a better creature than they probably wanted to. And if they chump block, there's the threat of activation that you're going to trample on through for some incidental damage. Seems fairly solid to me, especially paired with anything that's decently sized. I think you can start getting through for a fair amount of incidental damage, and that will add up over time. The 1 and a green is a relatively low cost to give things trample as well. I like this wolf. I like this wolf a fair bit. I'm going to go with a solid B on this one. Next up, we have Sylvan Messenger. She's a 3 and a green creature elf at uncommon for a 2/2. She has trample. I have no idea why. It's not often you see a 2/2 with trample. But she also says when Sylvan Messenger enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all elf cards revealed this way into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. As I've talked about, I just don't feel like there's enough high-quality elves at common for elf tribal to be a thing. Even the uncommon ones, such as this one, are a little bit iffy. There's a couple of decent uncommon elves, and there's definitely some awesome rare elves, but you're just not gonna get many of those. So I just don't really like her ability. I don't think it's all that awesome. I don't get why she has trample as a 2/2. I just don't think Elf Tribal is going to be that impactful of a deck. Could be wrong, who knows, but I just don't see it. And so ultimately, this is a 4-mana 2/2 with trample that maybe will net you a card. Maybe. Seems bad to me. Seems really bad to me. I'm going to go with a D+ on it. I don't like it. Next up, we have Timber Pack Wolf. This is a 1 and a green creature wolf common, and it's a 2/2. It's 2/2 for 2. And it has an upside. It says, Timber Pack Wolf gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control named Timber Pack Wolf. This has been reprinted before, by the way. At the worst, it's a 2/2 for 2, which is totally fine. C, for sure. However, if you grab 2 of these, 3 of these, it starts to become actually a little bit crazy. If you get 3 of these and you play all 3, you've got 3 4/4s for 2 each. That's really good. A 2/2 for 2 with a solid upside automatically goes to C+ unless it's amazing. Unfortunately, this isn't quite amazing. Historically, I've never been lucky enough to get 3 of these. I've gotten 2 of these before, and making them 3/3s was decent enough. But you do have to draw both, and they both have to survive on the battlefield for the effect to happen. As well, remember that anybody else who takes 1 of these is going to be looking to take more. And so you may be competing with people for this card. It's hard enough if you have to compete with somebody for a deck archetype. It's even worse when you're competing for a specific common with people. So be careful with this. Honestly, I think it's going to be a little bit rare that you actually do manage to go off with these guys, because the 2/2 for 2 is fine enough. I'll take this guy even as the first one, you know, late in a pack or even mid of a pack if there's just nothing else, even without intentions of taking more. But once I have that first one, I'm going to be on the lookout for more, as is everybody else. So I don't think it's going to go any higher than a C+, but C+ for sure. Next up, we have Titanic Growth. Titanic Growth is a 1 and a green instant at common that says target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. This is a massive reprint. It's been reprinted a lot. It's a total run-of-the-mill combat trick. It can be really demoralizing for your opponent as well to let through, say, a 4/4, because they figure, I can take that, and then suddenly they're taking 8. That's an awesome way to demoralize an opponent. As well, if you play this, you should be winning combat in almost every case. Totally includable as a 1 of, maybe a 2 of, but of course you don't want to load up on too many combat tricks. Historically, it's just been a totally solid combat trick, which means it's going to net a C+. Next up, we have Undercity Troll. This is a 1 and a green creature troll at uncommon, and it's a 2/2. It has Renown 1, and it has 2 and a green, regenerate Undercity Troll. Seems fine. 2/2 with an upside is always totally fine. Yeah, it's a 2/2 for 2 with an upside. It maybe someday will become a 3/3. However, there's no real way for this to get through. Regen's cool, but that just means I can attack and my opponent can block with whatever they want, and I can regen it, and that's cool, but it doesn't get through. It doesn't get the damage through. Yeah, I don't know if this guy's going to get renowned all that often. Plus, a creature with regen is usually much better served as a blocker anyways. I can block their 6/6. I can block their Outland Colossus a million times with this guy. Yeah, doesn't seem like something that's going to get renowned terribly often. It is, a 2/2 for 2 with an upside, though. It's a 2/2 for 2 that can regen, so it's going to be a C+, but nothing higher than that, I don't think. Next up, we have Valor Wardens. This is a 2 and a green creature human monk at uncommon, and boy, are there a lot of creature cards that are plurals in this set, which makes for really strange grammar. Valor Wardens have Renown 2. They're a 1/3, by the way. I don't know if I said that. They have Renown 2, and they say whenever a creature you control becomes renowned, draw a card. The Renowned Matters deck doesn't exist. I've been hesitant about Renown. I think there's some creatures that, they're going to get renowned a lot of the time. And I think there's a lot of creatures that just are never going to get renowned. Like this one. I don't think a 1/3 is ever going to get renowned outside of those opportunistic attacks. And I would never really take a card based purely on the potential of getting an opportunistic attack. So arguably this is a 1/3 the vast majority of the time. And maybe it draws you a card, but I really don't see a Renowned Matters deck happening that super includes green. Maybe if you're paired up with white, maybe if you're paired up with red, but I don't see these guys doing too much. I don't see them really doing too much work at all. Plus they're a 1/3, which is always kind of really middling stats, and as I said, I don't think they're going to become 2/4s, or sorry, 3, what is it? 3/5s. I don't think they're going to become 3/5s all that often either, so D- I'll go with. I won't give them an F. I think there's some power there, but I don't want to be the one to give these guys a shot. Next up, we have a very common reprint, Vastwood Gorger, which is a 5 and a green creature worm at common, and it's a 5/6, and that's it. This is the green vanilla creature. Yeah, big dumb creatures for 6, as I've talked about, aren't impressive until you read their rules text. And when they have no rules text, they're generally just kind of eh. They tend to suck in new players because a new player will say, whoa, a 5/6. I can kill my opponent in 4 turns if they have 20 life. And I can kill any creature they have. But your opponent's just going to play impactful creatures. They're going to play creatures that bounce this Gorger, creatures that can block this Gorger, creatures that can kill this Gorger and have threats left behind. They're going to have stuff. You can't assume your opponent's just not going to do anything. Even if your opponent has one creature and they chump block with this guy, they're very likely to play a creature next turn. And then they can jump block again. And you're just giving them turn after turn after turn to find the answer to the Gorger. It's fine if you really desperately need something at the top of your curve, but it's really not the best. There's a million other things you'd want to play instead of this. So I'll give it a C+. As I said, it's playable if you desperately need it, but try not to end up in that situation. Next up, we have Vine Snare. Vine Snare is a 2 and a green instant at common that says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with power 4 or less. So it's a really conditional fog that could benefit you or not benefit you or mildly benefit you. It really depends on the situation that you're in. And I mean, really, what are we hoping for here? Like, if a 2/2 is blocking my 4/4, it's dead anyways. So preventing the damage doesn't really do much. So I guess we're trying to stop like a double block scenario where their 2/2/2s are blocking my 4/4. But that doesn't happen super often. Just don't play fogs. You know, don't play fogs unless they are totally in your favor all the time. You know, Winds of Calcisma with Ferocious turned on was playable-ish. This, don't do it. Just don't do it. I'll go with a D-. I won't go with an F, but I probably should. Don't play it. Don't do it. Next up, we have Wild Instincts. This is a 3 and a green sorcery at common that says target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights target creature and opponent controls. So it's the fight card of the set. It's the green removal card of the set. It's a little bit more costly than we're used to. You know, Epic Confrontation was 2 mana. It only gave +1/+2, but it was 2 mana. 2 mana is a lot better than 4 mana. Yeah, you know, green doesn't get removal, so that alone makes it a little bit more playable. Right there, right then and right there. 4 mana, a little bit more expensive than we're used to, but it still should, you know, be playable all the time, and it should usually get you, you know, whatever creature you want dead, because +2/+2 on almost anything should profitably fight whatever you want. So it does seem like a decent pick. Even though it's slightly more expensive than we're used to, it seems like a very decent pick, and totally includable as at least a 1-of in probably every green deck. So I'm going to go with a B- on it. Maybe even just a solid straight up B. Seems like decent removal to me, I gotta say. Next up, we have Woodland Bellower. This is a 4 green creature bear, antelope, lion thing. Technically a beast. It's a mythic 6/5. And it says, when Woodland Bellower enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So for 6 mana, we're getting a 6/5 that brings along the most relevant 3-drop that I haven't played yet, or drawn yet. Yeah, so this is bigger than a 6/5 for 6. It's, you know, say we get a vanilla test passer, we get a 3/3. That means this is actually like a 9/8 for 6, technically. Super, super, super awesome. I really, really, really like this bear, antelope, elk, lion thing, whatever. Yeah, this just seems awesome. Total first pick, super playable. A, solid A. Probably even A+, I would think. Super awesome. Next up, we have Yiva's Force Mage. This is a 2 and a green creature elf shaman at common for a 2/2, and it says when Yiva's Force Mage enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. 2/2 for 3 with an upside is fine. The upside is sometimes going to be awesome, but there's also just going to be a number of times where it's just wasted. You don't have any other creatures. This is the only thing you're playing. There's no attacks happening. You know, even the +2/+2 doesn't give you a profitable attack. There's times where the effect's just going to go to waste. +2/+2 to a creature should give you a profitable attack, though, so it is still decent enough. After that single turn, though, you are left with a 2/2, remember, on turn 3, which is a little bit weak. I think I'll still go with C+ on this. I think it's still playable. I think it's still keepable more than it is cuttable. I wouldn't go out of my way to play more than one of these, I think, but seems fine. Total pickable if it's, you know, kind of one of the last few cards in your colors in the pack. So C+. And on to the last colored or monocolored, I suppose, card of the set, Zendikar's Royal. This is a 3 green enchantment at uncommon. And it says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. yeah, by turn 5, when this can finally come down, you're not really wanting to draw many more lands. But if you do, you get a 2/2 out of it. But getting a 2/2 on turn 5 or 6 or turn 7 isn't really that awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's sort of flood insurance. If you do flood out, you're going to at least flood the board with 2/2s as well. And hopefully, if you get a large army of 2/2s, maybe that will mean you start to get ahead in the game. But you're getting ahead in the game by not drawing any legitimate threats. You're drawing lands. So, I don't know. I mean, it's cool as an insurance card, but I don't really like to play insurance cards. I like to play cards that just win me the game, just progress me towards winning the game. I don't like playing cards that just kind of go, hey, if I'm going to start to lose the game, then maybe I can start to win the game. That's just a bit iffy for me. I think overall it's just a bit too cute. It's obviously meant to be played in multiples, and you're not going to get multiples of these, I don't think. If you could get 3 of these, you're still not going to get all 3 out until turn 7, turn 8. At which point then, yeah, you hit a land and you get 3 2/2s. That'll be cool, but that's magical Christmas land by far. So I'll go with a D+. I don't think it's playable. I see the appeal behind it, but I don't think it's playable. So D+ for me. So yeah, that's green. Green looks super interesting. There's some awesome cards, arguably some of the best cards in the set, unfortunately at Rare and Mythic though, in Nissa, Outland Colossus, Woodland Bellower, etc. So you're not really going to see them or get to play with them very often. In the common slots, the cards do become a little bit more middling, especially those elves. So I don't think elf tribal's going to be a legitimate thing. I could be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong. I just don't think it's going to be a thing, because the powerful elves, the elves that make elf tribal work, are at rare and uncommon. If you draft them first, cool. Give elf tribal a try, and it may be good. But it's not an archetype that you can go into in any other way other than opening one of those cards, pack one, pick one. So just be careful of that. I'm really, really, really hesitant on elf tribal. But as a whole, I think green feels a little bit like a support color, because a lot of the low cards are kind of middling. The uncommons are decent, but you're going to get what? Like 1 of those, maybe 2 of those. I'm interested to see how it plays out, though. I'm really excited to play a lot of those mythics and rares, though. So very interested in opening some of those. But that's green. That's the last colored set, monocolored set review anyways that we're going to do. Tomorrow we're going to do, as one single show, the multicolored 10 cards, the artifacts, and the lands. And that's going to be about the same length as most of these episodes so far, because there are something like 40 of those all put together. Plus, I'll do a little bit of analysis of just the format, how I think it's going to shape out, archetypes, etc. So stay tuned for that. As always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mana Leak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below. As well, if you like this videos, you should click those little thumbs up icons. Let me know that you like the videos. Let the world know that you like the videos, and keep my videos rising up through the ranks. As well, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, you should. There's a button below each video and one in the outro of each video. That'll keep you up to date on all the latest Crack-a-Pack Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Spiky Saturdays, and any other videos that pop up here or there. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow.